Mochi Health is here to help you start your weight loss journey with caring, personalized support. Meet one-on-one with board-certified obesity doctors and registered dietitians who truly listen and understand your unique needs. Eligible patients can access affordable GLP-1 medications delivered right to their door each month. No insurance? No problem. Mochi Health accepts FSA and HSA, making care accessible and affordable. And with 24/7 customer service, you'll never feel alone on your path to better health. Get started with Mochi Health today. Take the free quiz at joinmochi.com and use code AUDIO40 at checkout for $40 off your first month of membership. That's joinmochi.com with promo code AUDIO40.
This is the Weekly Scramble, a place where we chat about life over a cold one or two. It's time to belly up to the pod with Mike Fratelloni and your host, Chris Reavers.
That's right. It's time for the Weekly Scramble podcast. My name is Chris Reavers. With me, as always, his name is Mike Fratelloni. Hello, Michael.
How you doing, Reavers?
I'm doing okay. Normally our show is based upon, kind of just thoughts that guys our age like to talk about.
Sure,
things, whether it's sports related, whether it's political related, whether it's just, goings on in society related. And most of the time, I'd say we're kind of upbeat, but we have to talk about the story that happened over the weekend. And I'm sure anybody listening to us is very familiar of what transpired, sadly, in Champlin Park. But there's chilling new details. This is courtesy of KSTP.com about Vance Boelter's attack on Minnesota lawmakers and their families. A new timeline of events reveals the 57-year-old tried to do even more damage. Federal prosecutors say he stopped at the homes of 4 lawmakers early Saturday morning with the intent to kill them. Investigators believe that Boelter had been meticulously planning this attack for months. At 2:06 a.m., Boelter's first stop was in Champlin at Minnesota State Senator John Hoffman's house. Hoffman and his wife were shot multiple times but survived. Their daughter called 911. At 2:24 a.m. next, he traveled to Maple Grove to the home of an unnamed Minnesota State Senator. Fortunately, that lawmaker was on vacation and no one answered the door.
Wow.
At 2:36 a.m., Boelter traveled to the New Hope neighborhood where Minnesota State Senator Ann Rest lives. Near her home, he was intercepted by another officer making a welfare check, and so he left the scene without incident. At 3:30 a.m., he arrived at the home of Melissa and Mark Hortman, where he shot and killed them both. Boelter ended up rushing the house and firing into it. He ditched his body armor, mask, and weapon behind the home when he escaped on foot, which started one of the largest manhunts in the state of Minnesota's history. In a criminal complaint, prosecutors said Boelter avoided police, at Hortman's home and was seen later at a home where he was staying in North Minneapolis. It's unclear how or when he got to that home, but prosecutors said he texted family members at 6:18 a.m. and then met a witness at a bus stop in North Minneapolis at 7 a.m. on Saturday. He then traveled by bus with that witness to the man's home, where he purchased the man's e-bike and Buick sedan for $900. Boelter's whereabouts after that were unknown until he was spotted at 2:30 a.m. on Sunday on the e-bike near his Green Isle home in Sibley County. The Buick was also found abandoned near that area. This sparked an all-day search, and around 6:53 p.m. on Sunday, he was seen by a neighbor on a trail cam photo. That neighbor contacted investigators who then surrounded the area, and Boelter was arrested without incident at 9:10 p.m. on Sunday.
Wow. Frightening.
It's frightening. Joe said it best yesterday when he said, this is straight up out of a John Sanford novel.
Sure.
What happened. And I guess for me, so not that I'm going to bore the audience with the details of my weekend, but my oldest son and I were basically traveling to and from Maple Grove, where he was playing in a baseball tournament. He had a game Friday night, he had a game Saturday morning, he had 2 games on Saturday, and then he had 3 games on Sunday. So there was a lot of windshield time for the two of us, and we were driving, from Jordan up to Maple Grove, and we took a couple of different routes just to get it, based upon traffic and things like that. We drove by the Green Isle ballpark on Friday.
Okay.
And because I love that city. It's about, I would say, 20, 25 minutes straight west of where I live. Because I live kind of on the south end of town in Jordan.
Sure.
Anyway, but I remember us driving by the ballpark in Green Isle just a couple of days before this all happened. And for us, not to add a personal note to it, but I had mentioned this on the Garage Logic podcast that when this story first surfaced, of course, all of us are just in utter shock. Like, are you kidding me?
Sure.
What's going on? And then just the fear and the panic of the unknown. Is he a threat to civilians? I personally didn't think he was, but you never know, right? And then I remember when his mugshot was revealed, and I had said this on the Garage Logic podcast yesterday. I said, oh my God, I think I've met this guy.
Oh gosh.
And then I find out that he has a connection to town baseball. And the way I tried to illustrate it to Joe and the crew yesterday was, there's always the running joke on Garage Logic, oh God, here comes another town ball story. Well, the thing is, there's almost 300 teams in the state of Minnesota.
Sure.
It's the best run program in the country. It's not even close.
I believe you.
And of those 300 teams, think about this, right? Of those 300 teams, you've got anywhere from 10 to 20 players and their families. And then you've got probably another 5 to 10 people,
thousands
and sometimes more, just involved with running the program. And then you've got countless fans and volunteers. So you meet, and 99.9% of these people are awesome.
Okay.
They're great people.
I believe you.
None of us get rich off this. We just do it because we love the sport of baseball, right? And so you always meet different people throughout and I've been involved with it since 1996, since I was in high school.
Sure.
Right. So I've met hundreds of thousands of people involved with this. And I remember, because I'm not great with names. I'm okay with names, but I'm not great with names. But I remember faces like nobody's business.
He looked very much like every other person I know, right? He looked like a standard late 50s dude.
That would be walking into one of your hardware stores.
100%.
Yeah.
He did not look like a deviant nutcase, right? It was really, I really had a weird reaction. I thought, I had this sick feeling that I'm like, oh, somehow I'm going to be tied to this guy, right? I just felt like somehow is he a listener of the show? Is he whatever it is? Somehow I was going to feel like I was tied to. Thank God I have no connections, and you have a secondary connection, right? You guys,
if even that,
you weren't
right.
Facebook friends with them or anything like that. And it just is. We cannot have a civil society and have stuff like this happen,
right?
Right?
Yeah.
And it was sad because right when it happened, I thought, okay, politically motivated thing. And I instantly went to I wonder what side of politics is he on? And it doesn't matter what side of politics he's on, right? And I surely if he would have been fallen more on my side politically and he would have done this, I would have thought he's a murderous nutcase. And if he would have fallen on the other side and he did it, I would have thought he was a murderous nutcase, right? But I found even myself falling into the trap thinking, please don't be on my side. Please don't be on my side of the political spectrum, even though I feel like I'm in the middle, even maybe more in the middle than I've ever been. And I still thought, holy crap. What I think, Rivers, what really scares me about this is when you start killing politicians, right? Politicians have the ability to fight back. They have the ability to fight back with tyranny, right? And
explain.
Meaning they have power that you and I don't, right?
Sure.
Kid out in the street kills another kid. Boy, that happens, right? Politicians don't have to do anything about that. When you start killing politicians, all of a sudden politicians have big walls around their houses, right? Politicians have a bunch of security around them. Politicians say, I don't think people within 500 yards of my home should have a gun. Politicians start saying, tyranny can just slowly step in, right? And because the moment you make politicians afraid, they're the ones that create laws, and they can create laws that protect them instead of the overall good of society.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have a tiered system where politicians say, I get this, you have that. Because you're killing other politicians, I need to have this, which is different protection and a different level of safety than the citizens at large. And that scares me.
Well, and I'll add to that because, the immediate thought obviously is, holy crap, what is going on? Because it's one of those stories too where you think, well, that's not supposed to happen here. Not that it's supposed to happen anywhere. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, that's not the kind of thing that happened in the Minnesota I grew up in.
Venezuela. That's, someone in Venezuela kills a politician.
I guess that's a better way to say it, because for me, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute here. Because I have long said on both our show and on GL, I have always said, here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. And I remember, and again, I know I'm biased because I have a father that's a retired police officer. And I remember thinking that the more and more that we, and I'm just using the collective we, keep demonizing law enforcement, the less qualified candidates we're going to get to do the job. And that's ringing true right now. I know Mayor Fry just a couple of days ago was boasting about the fact that we have over 600 uniformed police officers in Minneapolis for the first time in quite some time. Sure. That's all well and good. How many of them are actually qualified? And I hope that it's 100%.
They're learning,
or
even
close
if
to
they
100%.
were great people. It takes a while.
But now now you're going to almost have to attach that with politicians, because we have long said, well, the people that are probably right for the job really don't want the job, because they don't want everything else that goes along with it. And whether it's the fact that every element of your personal life is open for discussion, right?
And people are pissed. People are nuts, and people are pissed.
That's just it. And so now that things like this are now happening, my God, so that's going to take that thin pool of qualified candidates. It's going to make that pool even thinner.
Oh yeah. Because why would you want that? Why would you want that, unless, go back to my supposition, unless you knew you had security above and beyond the normal person?
Yeah, you're right.
That you knew you had power above and beyond the normal person, right?
Yep.
And I mean, the simple fact is Melissa Hortman needed it. She needed security, right? She should have had someone at her house, not people walking around the yard, right? But someone parked in front of her house, maybe when she's doing a vote on something big, on something important, right? So go back, and then I want to link to Garage Logic with this guy. But go back and read to me again. He went to a couple people's houses first.
Yep.
And those people just happened to be out of town.
Yeah, so the first one was at 2:06 a.m. No, I'm sorry. That was when he went to Hoffman's house. I'm sorry. At 2:24 a.m., he traveled to Maple Grove to the home of an unnamed Minnesota State Senator.
Okay.
And this is a Jay Coles piece. And I know that both Jay and Tom Hauser have the name of that senator.
Sure, there's no reason to say
but
it.
And Tom said in our show yesterday that he said, I'm not including her. He didn't even say her. He said, I'm not including that person's name because that's just a journalistic decision I'm making, and I have respect to that.
And why add to the kill list?
Right. So, but that lawmaker in Maple Grove was on vacation, and no one answered the door. And then at 2:36 a.m., Boelter traveled to the New Hope neighborhood where Minnesota State Senator Ann Rest lives. Near her home, he was intercepted by so she was home.
So explain this to me. Keep going now.
So Ann Rest is the one who lives in New Hope. She's a Minnesota State Senator. And near her home, he was intercepted by another officer making a welfare check. And here's the part that gets tricky, because there was greater detail, not in this particular story, but in another story in which, and I want people to understand, I am not indicting this police officer, but he pulled up next to him, and because Boelter was in what looked to be an unmarked squad car with the spotlight near we've all seen unmarked squads. He pulled up, and Boelter just kept looking forward, didn't look at this police officer, and just went, okay, well, this guy must be here doing the same welfare check I was about to do. That would be what.
So he wasn't intercepted. He didn't stop and talk to him.
No, he attempted to. He attempted to, but Boelter just kept looking forward and never rolled down his window. So it's just a bizarre story.
That is really bizarre, because I mean, even though it looked like a police car, it wasn't. Right? And you think police would know that it doesn't have this thing on it or whatever the case may be.
Well, and that's the thing, because keep in mind, so two of these four homes, one, no one was home, and the other one, he was intercepted. So that, again, it was a 50-50 shot.
Sure.
Sorry, I did not mean to use that word, but it was a 50-50 chance that these people were actually home. So it was all a per-chance circumstance.
Oh, I mean, what fear. Just think of those people right now that are thinking, but for the grace of God, I just happen to not be home that day, right? So here's my link. Can I make an amateur link?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So we have on the Garage Logic podcast, our father podcast, we're going to call that, right? A very special relationship to one Vince Flynn. And Vince Flynn, his very first book, if you remember that title back in 1997, arguably I think one of his best books. Not everybody loved it the same way I did, but it was Term Limits.
Yep.
And if you remember, the scenario in that a group of guys wanted some political change to happen, and they started killing politicians.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Do you think that there's a chance that a 57-year-old man who saw himself as a security guy, who had some conservative followings, do you think he would have read term limits?
Boy, I don't know.
I mean, he's my demographic, right? He's my age. He's on a conservative side, although much more different than me, but
yeah, that's
not that different.
Interesting question.
I read
don't
the
know.
book, right?
Yeah.
I read all of Vince's books, and so when we often say this political rhetoric is getting so charged, you don't wonder why something like this could happen, right? It's not impossible to believe that something like this could happen.
Right.
And I go all the way back to a book like Term Limits in 1997, where he thought, oh, that would be a weird way to make change happen in America by killing, politicians. And I wonder if a guy like Vance, the guy who killed the people, Vance Boelter allegedly killed them, right? If he read a book like that. We keep going back to everybody calling Donald Trump a Nazi, everybody calling Donald Trump the new Hitler, Republicans calling Democrats names and doing all this stuff. What I fear about that is if someone said to you, Reavers, you have a chance to go kill Hitler and 30 million people will live. You got to do it now because it's Hitler. Would you want to go kill Hitler? Right?
Right.
I mean, hypothetically, right?
Sure.
Theoretically. Well, somebody says, Donald Trump's Hitler? I need to kill Hitler. I know what Hitler did. And that rhetoric is being charged, and it could be charged from simple books like Term Limits.
Yeah. I want to stay with this, but let's take a quick pause here. I do want to mention our new friends at We Are Nuts. I mentioned this last week. I had the opportunity to tour the We Are Nuts facility, and it's quite impressive. And thank you for all of you listeners that ordered your Father's Day gift from We Are Nuts because you wanted to give Dad a little bit something special. But these are locally made, insanely fresh, and packed with flavor. The snacks are amazing. Their premium nuts and mixed snacks are the perfect way to celebrate any occasion. And it doesn't matter. Maybe you love the cashews, the peanuts, the almonds, or the sweet and salty mix. We Are Nuts has it all. You can also go to their website, which is wearenutsmn.com, and see all of their quality Minnesota-made products. And you can purchase We Are Nuts jars right now for $2 off at all Lund's and Byerly's locations. That's $2 off at all Lund's and Byerly's locations. That's going on right now, by the way, through, what is that, next Wednesday, June 25th. So take advantage of that great special. And again, it doesn't matter if you are a fan of the maple bourbon toffee almonds, the original toffee peanuts, or you know what, check out the ultimate sampler. That's right. So go to wearenutsmn.com. And if you're not based here in Minnesota and you'd like to place an order, visit that website, and they're going to be able to send that great product to you at wearenutsmn.com. The Weekly Scramble. We'll be right back. I feel as though I cut you off with our previous segment, but I wanted to get into it a little bit more long form, and knowing that we were up against a break. Mm-hmm. So obviously, the question to the answer to your Hitler question is obviously probably yes.
Sure.
Right? Probably yes. Mm-hmm. But I guess the part that I have such a hard time processing is, and it happens on both sides. But what I don't like is when one side of the political aisle continues to spew hate, continues to spew venom. You had the governor of the state of Minnesota that says we need to get meaner, we've got to get tougher. And then when something like this happens, everyone acts shocked.
Sure.
Well, you cannot continue and we've been accused, meaning the GL show has been accused of spewing. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, not at any I'm going to get wound up. Mm-hmm. I guess here's the point I'm trying to make. I decided a while ago, about 4.5 months ago, I decided that unfortunately there's just a section of our society where people are just nuts.
Sure.
And I do think that section is growing by the day. Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it stems from social media. I think a lot of it stems from propaganda being spewed by news outlets all over the country. Because, again, you have to be able to trust where you're verifying your information.
Sure.
I learned that the hard way doing this as a job for the last 20 whatever years I've been doing this job. So you got to be careful with what news you decide to consume. You got to be careful with what you can trust when you see things on social media, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's not real. That's fake. I've had this conversation with my 13-year-old. You can't trust everything that you see online. Anyway, I'm
Those girls' boobs were not nearly that big.
But my point is, have you ever watched the movie The Social Dilemma?
I haven't. I have to watch it.
You need to
You
watch
told
it
me, today.
You
Yeah, I
have
know.
got to watch it with your daughters, especially.
Yeah.
Okay, it will absolutely change everything that you think about what we're consuming on a daily basis.
Sure.
And not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Yeah.
Okay, but my point is, all of these algorithms and everything is trying to tear us apart. They want us to hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole design of, quote unquote, the machine. And you know what? To a certain degree, it's working.
It's more than to a certain degree. It's working.
And by the way, join the Frat Pack 5000 Facebook fan page right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is, there's just a certain section that's just nuts, and you can't. I had a good friend tell me this one time. It's like you're arguing with a head of lettuce.
Sure.
And you have to understand. Well, that person's not going to understand my point or the message that I'm trying to convey. So I'm just going to stop trying.
Yeah. The frustrating thing about politics arguments, too, is it's one of the very few things that someone on the left and someone on the right feel they're 100% right and the other person is 100% wrong. Right? There is no there's no gray area. They're just like, that side is wrong.
Nuance is lost.
Yeah, it's totally lost. It is a scary situation, Reavers. I think the vast majority of people are good. Right? The vast majority of people are good. We know that.
A higher percentage, no doubt.
I mean,
absolutely no doubt.
much more than a higher percentage. 99.99% of people are good. Right? Come on, Reavers. You know, the problem is we have a lot of people in America, right?
Sure, yep.
300 million people. If 10% of them are weird, that's 30 million people. If 10% of those really weird people are kind of dangerous, that's 3 million people. If 10% of those 3 million people are really kind of dangerous, that's 300,000. Still a lot of people. Right? But it's still a very, very small percentage when you start small percentage, but there still can be some dangerous people. I don't know. I don't know what we can do about, I don't want to blame Democrats for their rhetoric. I don't want to blame Republicans for their rhetoric. Right? I don't think that works. I don't think the rhetoric works for sane people. Right? I don't think when the Governor Walz says, we might have to get a little bit more aggressive, we might have to get a little mean, I don't think anybody takes that deeply, right?
Right.
Except maybe a handful. But in this case, if things appear to be what they are, right, with the story's now been 72 hours old or whatever, a little bit longer than that, it seems like he was a right-wing person.
Yep.
And he had hatred towards Democrats. And his kill list, supposedly, was laden with almost only Democrats.
Well, and he was very much against abortion rights. And I think that played a major role in who did not make it onto the hit list that has been released by certain outlets, but so others have tried to avoid it, which I completely understand both sides of that
That
argument.
is really disgusting. That is really disgusting that they would release a kill list. I believe they could have called those people and said, hey, Bob, you're on the list. Take extra precautions just in case this list is more than just one person.
Yeah, in case, he wasn't acting alone.
Sure.
I completely get that. And the other part of it that I wanted to get to was, excuse me, and you actually played a role in this. So Sunday, I had to get my son to Maple Grove at 8:00 in the morning. So we left our house a little bit before 7. Little breakfast, right?
Sure.
So let's get a little chow on you, and then you can fall back asleep because we got about an hour drive to get up there, right? So we're heading up there, and I was going to park, let him go take batting practice. I was going to watch my other son's game on my phone because this Game Changer thing, it's fantastic. So
You can watch more baseball games.
It's awesome.
Yeah, okay.
I can watch one baseball game while I'm at another baseball game. It's really cool. Anyway, okay, I digress. But I'm sitting in my car. So this is about, 8:30 in the morning because Williams' game didn't start till 9:00. So I'm sitting in my car just watching baseball, listening to a little music, whatever. And my phone is going nuts. Here's my buddy Mike Fredoloni texting me. Here's my dad texting me. Here's everybody else. And I'm going, what is going on? And so I saw your text first about how Boelter's abandoned car was stashed, and actually it was east of Green Isle, at like halfway of a distance between Belle Plaine and Green Isle, which is very near where I live.
Sure.
Right. And that all of a sudden, because again, keep in mind, I'm with 14 other Jordan families because all of our kids play on the same team.
So you're all looking at the news at the same time.
And well, I'm the one that broke it to everybody in the group.
Oh, good.
And I said, "Oh my God, did you guys see this?" And one guy said, "Yeah, my dad called me right away and just said, hey." And so, but the best part of I'm trying to like provide just kind of a funny anecdote to this horrifically bad story. So this is what happens when you're the son of a retired deputy sheriff, like I am.
Sure.
I get a text from my dad. Did you see this story? And my dad likes to type text messages in all caps.
In all caps, of course.
Because that's just what he does.
One, he's old. Two, he likes to yell.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I said, yes, I got it. He goes, well, where is everybody? Meaning
the kids and the wife.
Exactly. And so I said, Dad, we're okay. I'm nowhere near. First of all, that's about 20 minutes west of my house.
Sure, yeah.
And secondly, William and I are in Maple Grove and Jess and Leland are down at Albert Lee. Like nobody's home anyway.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you got to run. It was just, of course, it was Father's Day.
Sure.
So it's just Dad being Dad.
He didn't do one of those, come on over, grab a gun, and let's go looking for this guy.
No, not at all.
Really?
But you know what?
There was no instinct in that?
No, but you know what?
Okay.
I will share an anecdote, and I don't think he'd mind me telling this, but you recall the Jacob Wetterling case.
Sure do.
My dad was on duty when the manhunt for Jacob. I mean, you're talking about units and officers from all over the state
all over,
that all drove up there to go help and then the search. And the reason my dad raised his hand and felt compelled to go up there was Jacob and I were about the same age.
Yeah.
You know, so I knew that obviously had hit him probably a bit differently than it might have hit some others.
Oh, 100% it would.
So
right?
anyway, but just to give a little side note on that, but it was interesting just to see the reaction of, because it had somewhat of a connection to where I reside. And I'm just thinking, and that's the part that was so eerie to me and why I mentioned Green Isle in the first segment. Like I said, I had just driven by that ballpark a couple of days beforehand, and you've probably never been to Green Isle, Minnesota.
Nope, sure haven't, Reavers.
You know what? How I will describe Green Isle, Minnesota, and and I've had fun with those guys from a town baseball perspective over the years. It's Americana.
Yeah,
it's a cool little small town that's growing, by the way, because it's only about an hour from here. Oh. You can get there in about an hour.
I bet you I could.
You should open up a hardware store out there.
Down there.
But it's Americana to this respect. It's just a cool little small town right off a highway in rural Minnesota that's got a beautiful baseball park. It's got a cool little Irish bar. It's got a beer distributorship.
Sure.
It's got a church, a school, and that's about it.
That's it.
You know, it's just a cool, neat little town. And they've got a newer area where people are trying to escape Carver County, Texas, and go to Sibley County.
Okay.
And you're still only about an hour from Minneapolis.
Sure.
But it is growing a little bit. And so that's what struck me. So when you see the line of all of these law enforcement agencies up and down Highway 25 right next to the ballpark, and then seeing the helicopter parked in center field of the ballpark, when I saw that, I went, in fact, I think it was Liz Collin that did a drive-by and videoed that. That was what really struck me like, holy crap.
Try to get into his head.
How can you?
Great point. I mean, when he was caught, did he say, I succeeded, I didn't succeed, I regret? I just can't.
I get the sense, because you saw the video of the roommate, on his cell phone. I'm getting the sense that he knew, or he finally just realized, I'm not getting away with this.
I'm not getting away with this. But he might not have cared to get away with it, right?
Maybe not. Yeah,
I just,
maybe not.
The roommate, I didn't understand what was going on with that. He has a wife and children, right?
Yep.
And then he had a roommate in northeast Minneapolis.
Yep.
I don't understand. Did he work in Minneapolis and needed to rent a room and still live?
Apparently he had allegedly he had a security company, which is what allowed him to have access to unmarked
cars, like
vehicles that looked like that resembled squad cars.
All right.
And apparently he had another part-time job that paid him. So he worked in Minneapolis, but apparently he lived with his wife and children. I think there were 4 kids.
Yep,
or there are 4 kids. And they lived at the property out in Green Isle.
Sure.
And who knows, man? I have no idea.
Then help me understand this. If you recall the story, they picked up the wife and the kids, and in the car was some money.
And passports.
Right. So do you think he called his wife and said, I've done something dumb, or I've done something bad? And she said, what do you mean? right? What do you mean you've done something bad, right? We have 4 or 5 kids, whatever it is.
Right.
And then she got on the run? Or do you think she hopped in the car and said, kids, get in the car, and she was driving? There's so many untold and ununderstood things. It's funny because when this first happened, it was Saturday. What day was it? Saturday?
It was Saturday, yeah.
Saturday. And so on Sunday, I was going to call you and say, let's go in and do a podcast, right? Let's get something.
Kenny said the same thing on Saturday. He wanted us to come in and do a GL podcast.
He did.
Yeah.
But without listening to Joe Souchere's rules of you got to let these stories marinate 48 hours, right? Because we knew nothing then. I was under the impression at the beginning of that time period that he might have been pissed at these state senators and politicians because they had voted against offering free health care to,
Right.
you know.
That was some of the initial
That
speculation.
was some of the
yep.
initial bullshit,
Right.
Potential bullshit. I don't know. That might even be it.
And we might not ever know.
We might not ever know. He's alive. We very well may know, right? We can ask him. We can look at his writings. We can look through his social media. We can do all that stuff. So we might actually get an answer to it. And I feel so ashamed that I was like, oh, man, this is horrible. But is it one of their own eating their own? Right? That's a little bit of what my brain said. And that's not, I don't want to be that person. I just don't want to be that person, Reavers.
It's grilling season. And
Well, thank God.
And what is one of the most important steps of grilling? Picking the right seasonings. And Masters Maples has got you covered. What makes their seasonings a rub special? Huh? That wasn't
a rub special?
I meant to say and. Not
Say it one more time, because a rub special.
What makes
I'm
our
sure that's not
seasonings
what they
and rub special.
and rub special.
I meant to say and, not the letter
okay,
A.
Good. That makes me feel way better.
Ben, I'm really sorry.
Okay.
The number one ingredient is maple sugar. With 2 options to choose from, the sweet or savory, you can add some real flavor to your cooking. Both can be used on the grill and the smoker, and they work well with any meat. Burgers, ribs, steaks, brisket, chicken, pork chops, fish, anything. The sweet seasoning is especially delicious on many grilled or roasted vegetables too. I can attest. Here's what I do. Here's my plan. I grab the sweet seasoning. You get the aluminum tray like you would bake a birthday cake in, or no, like a birthday cake in, right? So you take one of those. Two big bags of frozen vegetables, because I like the ones that have the chopped peppers and onions and carrots and stuff in it.
Fajita mix or something.
Oh God, yeah. And then you just olive oil and you put that sweet or savory. Oh my God, dude, it's so good.
Can I tell you what I did?
What?
I had some cottage cheese, and I took the Master's maple syrup and just spread it on the cottage cheese with a little bit of pepper.
Okay.
But did you know that cottage cheese isn't actual cheese?
Really?
Yeah, just occurred to me. Do you think Ben will cancel his?
Might. Yeah, he might
cancel
after
his
this
ads
ad.
because of these ads. Master's Maple makes some delicious stuff.
Yeah, they really do. And it's 100% pure, and it's made right here in the state of Minnesota. So go to mastersmaples.com, and you can place your order today. I got a great email from Greg, who I think was in Virginia, and he said, thanks, Reavers, for the recommendation. I ordered my Master's Maples, and it arrived in no time. Well, thank you, Greg. Even though you're not here in the great state of Minnesota, you can still enjoy the best things that Minnesota has to offer. So go online and see their entire selection. It doesn't matter if you're in the market for the bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup, the traditional, but they also do have that pure maple sugar that you can use for baking and all sorts of things. And sign up for that newsletter, too. He does a great job of putting recipes and things like that on that newsletter each and every single month. But go to mastersmaples.com to find out more. Masters Maples, taste the difference. The Weekly Scramble. We'll be right back.
56.
Who gave you that joke?
Yeah, you know what? Now that I'm telling these fantastic dad jokes, in fact, I got another one I'll do right after this.
Okay.
Frat packers are sending them to me, and that joke where cottage cheese isn't real cheese is just occurred to me. CURD. That was from Gordon Kramer, number 748 in the frat pack. And I said, Gordon, I'm using this. He goes, I hope you do. And I said, absolutely. So not only do I owe Gordon for that, but he was part of the ad, so he probably wants like talent fees for that.
Oh, I don't think we're going to be doing that.
Okay, because he didn't say any words, right?
No.
He would just be a writer.
Right.
And writers don't get paid
Well,
anything
it's
for
an
that.
offsite contributor, as
There
Joe
you
likes
go.
to
There
call
you
them.
go.
No, an offsite correspondent. That's what Joe likes to call them.
When I was traveling this last week, Reavers, there's a woman totally, completely passed out. She was in the little baggage carousel. She's coming around now. Get it? Because she's in the carousel. She's coming around now.
Hold on.
Okay, I got a real good joke. You ready?
All right, here we go.
It's becoming, I need these jokes. Well, let me tell you, before I tell this joke, I said to my wife, I said, did you hear about the shooting? And she looked at me kind of dumbfounded. And she said, okay, what is it? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I'm so used to doing these jokes now, Reavers. Mm-hmm. She no longer believes what I'm going to say is real.
Oh, sure.
So I was talking about this horrific shooting, and she thought I was setting up a punchline. And, you don't know this about my wife, but she had 2 children before she met me, and she gave up for adoption.
Oh.
Right? I don't know if you knew that.
I did not
And
know
one
that.
of them was sent to Egypt, and his name is Amal. And the other one was sent to Spain, and they named him Juan, right? And the other day, she gets a picture of Amal in the mail, and she's like, I wonder what the other child looks like. And I said, well, once you've seen him, Juan, you've seen them all. Once you've seen Juan, you've seen them all.
Right.
She didn't have 2 babies to
No,
give.
she did
So
not.
I have to tell my mom, my wife did not have 2 babies before she met me.
That's what we call satirical.
That's satirical.
Yeah.
Once you've seen one, you've seen them all. I know everyone's heard that joke before, but it's not a bad joke.
Well, I don't know if you know this about me,
oh, no.
but I had a girlfriend in college,
Yes.
and she was obsessed with counting numbers.
Okay.
I wonder what she's up to now.
Please tell me a frat packer sent you that.
No, actually, I just because you started this horrifically awesome
Yes.
bit, I followed an account called Dad Jokes and More.
Oh, there you go.
on
I do
Twitter.
know this. If she dated you, she's probably only up to like 41 or something because she can't be that bright. Reavers, you are the best.
Oh my goodness gracious. Thank you, Michael. Hey, before I forget to mention it, please do us a favor and starting, I think, what did we say during Garage Logic? I think it's starting this Friday. Yeah, Friday, June 20th. It's going to be amazing because it's that time of the year again where we have the summer online auction, and it's a really good opportunity for you to save a lot of money on really cool items. But it starts this Friday and it runs through Thursday, June 26th. You have to go to garagelogic.com and enter the keyword auction to view and bid on items where you can save up to 70% off retail prices. Tens of thousands of dollars in items are up for grabs.
Woo!
There is a 0-turn lawnmower, string trimmer, and leaf blower, from our friends at Tri-State Bobcat. We've got e-bikes and a generator from EcoFun Motorsports, an airport hotel stay at the Intercontinental for your next getaway.
that's nice.
There's also, for you, Mike Fratelloni, golf simulators for year-round play.
Oh, that would be cool.
Really cool garage storage systems from Gator Magnetics. And I already know what you're going to bid on because you usually participate in this.
I bought a couple things. Let me tell you, there's 2 things.
Go ahead.
Is there a golf cart?
Private golf lessons.
No, but remember who's our friends that always do the golf cart?
Oh
my God.
well, it's not EcoFun.
EcoFun.
Is it EcoFun that do that? Okay.
They usually do it.
Okay.
Or
well, this year
trip.
they're doing e-bikes and a generator.
E-bikes
instead.
and a generator. Okay. And then what about a trip from Escape With Us Vacations?
I believe that is going to be on here, but you can find it at garagelogic.com. But I know what you're going to.
Oh, what is it?
I know what you're going to bid on this year because I saw this and I went, "This has Mike Fratelloni written all over it." I have no idea what you're going to use it for.
Sure.
A 40-foot shipping container. That's got you written all over it. Well, when I mentioned on GL, Kenny goes, "Okay, I could move in there."
And they just drop it off at your house?
Apparently. What do I know?
Well, as I started to become more of a prepper, Reavers,
Yeah.
with society just falling down, I bought a car that's old enough that can still ride after an EMP, right?
I don't know what that
Electromagnetic pulse that knocks out all
sure.
electronics.
Okay, gotcha.
But if you buy a car mid-'80s, they don't have computer chips in them, so they still run.
Okay.
So my car will run, right?
But I'm screwed.
You're screwed, but
Yeah.
I can drive over to your place. But then if I had a shipping container, I could put provisions in there.
There you go.
I don't know. I'm thinking this out. Do you have a little Royce gas attack? Is that what you're having?
Yeah,
what did you have? Is it Taco Tuesday?
No, it's just the state of my being right now.
Something's happening in your belly. I don't know if you can hear that online.
Probably my cancerous tumors that
It's
are
like,
eating my
feed me,
stomach
Seymour.
alive.
Okay, Reavers, you still are the best, even though you're gassy.
Thank you very much. Please do us a favor, rate and review the show wherever you happen to be listening to the Weekly Scramble podcast. It does help other people find the show, and it helps us out a tremendous amount as well, and we appreciate it. His name is Mike Fratelloni. My name is Chris Reavers. Thank you so very much for listening to the Weekly Scramble podcast. We'll talk to you again next time. Until then, cheers.